Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Let's begin. The rain battered the windows of the cozy Brooklyn apartment, a relentless drumbeat that mirrored the tension inside. Clara sat on the edge of the worn leather couch, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, staring at the medical report on the coffee table. The words, "low ovarian reserve," glared back at her, a clinical verdict that felt like a death sentence to her dreams of motherhood. Beside her, Ethan paced, his jaw tight, his dark hair disheveled from running his hands through it. "Another dead end," Ethan muttered, his voice low but edged with frustration. "How many times are we going to do this, Clara? How many doctors, how many tests?" Clara's hazel eyes flicked up to him, her heart twisting. "Ethan, I know it's hard, but we can't give up. There's still a chance. A chance." He stopped pacing, turning to face her. His blue eyes, usually warm, were stormy. "Clara, it's a slim chance. You heard the doctor. Less than 10%. We've been at this for 2 years. I'm tired of chasing ghosts." Her throat tightened. "Ghosts? This isn't a ghost, Ethan. This is our future. Our family." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "I want that too, but I feel like I'm drowning here. We're stuck, Clara. This apartment, this life, it's suffocating me." The words hit like a physical blow. Clara stood, her voice trembling. "Suffocating? Ethan, we built this life together. We chose this. I thought you loved me." "I do love you," he snapped, then softened, his shoulders slumping. "But I don't know how to keep doing this. I need space to think." "Space?" Her voice cracked. "What does that even mean?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned away, his silence louder than any words. That night, as Clara lay in bed, the rain still pounding outside, she heard the creak of the floorboards. She sat up, heart racing, only to find Ethan in the living room, zipping up a duffel bag. A single sheet of paper lay on the kitchen counter, his handwriting stark and cold. "I need space to think." "I'm sorry, Ethan." Her voice was a whisper, raw with disbelief. He froze, his back to her, but he didn't turn around. "I can't do this right now, Clara," he said, his voice hollow. "I'll call you. I promise." And then he was gone, the door clicking shut behind him. Clara sank to the floor, clutching the note, the silence of their once vibrant home swallowing her whole. The echoes of their shared dreams, of laughter, of tiny footsteps, faded into a void, leaving only the rain to mourn with her. 3 weeks later, Clara sat on the cold tiles of her bathroom, staring at the plastic stick in her hand. 2 pink lines. Impossible. She blinked, her breath catching, as if the universe had played a cruel trick. She took another test, then another, each confirming the miracle. She was pregnant. Joy surged through her, bright and blinding, but it was quickly tangled with fear. Ethan was gone. She was alone. "Clara, you've got this," she whispered to herself, pressing a hand to her still flat stomach. "You're not alone. Not anymore." But the weight of her reality pressed down. The apartment lease was due, her savings were dwindling, and Ethan hadn't answered her calls. She tried texting him, her fingers trembling as she typed, "Ethan, we need to talk. Something's happened. Please call me." No response. She sent another, then another, each more desperate, but the silence from his end was deafening. Meanwhile, in Silicon Valley, Ethan's world was exploding in a very different way. Vortex Innovations, his tech startup, had just launched a revolutionary AI platform that sent shockwaves through the industry. Overnight, he was no longer the scrappy coder from Brooklyn but a billionaire tech mogul, his face splashed across Forbes and TechCrunch. Investors clamored for his attention, and at a glittering launch party, a woman glided into his orbit. Veronica Steele was all sharp edges and calculated charm, her emerald eyes locking onto Ethan like a predator sizing up prey. "You're the man of the hour," she purred, handing him a glass of champagne. "Vortex is going to change the world, Ethan. And you're going to need someone who understands that world." Ethan, still reeling from his sudden ascent, managed a smile. "Thanks, but I'm just trying to keep up." "Oh, you'll do more than keep up," Veronica said, her voice smooth as silk. "You're a visionary. But visions can be lonely." You need someone who gets it. Her hand brushed his arm, lingering just long enough to plant a seed. That night, as Ethan lay in his sterile penthouse, Clara's texts buzzed on his phone. He reached for it, but Veronica, lounging on his couch with a glass of wine, intercepted. "Work calls already," she teased, glancing at the screen. Her smile tightened as she saw Clara's name. "Old girlfriend?" she asked lightly, but her eyes were sharp. "Something like that," Ethan muttered, unease flickering in his chest. Veronica set the phone down, out of reach. "You're in a new league now, Ethan. Don't let the past drag you down." The seed of doubt took root. Clara's days blurred into a haze of survival. She took a job as a cashier at a local diner, her feet aching from long shifts, her heart aching from Ethan's silence. She wrote him letters now, pouring her soul onto paper since her texts went unanswered. "I'm pregnant, Ethan. It's yours. I don't know why you left, but please, we need you." She mailed them to his old office address, unaware that Vortex Innovations had moved to a gleaming high-rise in San Francisco. In that high-rise, Veronica had become a fixture in Ethan's life. She was his unofficial advisor, his confidant, her presence a constant hum of ambition and allure. When Clara's letters arrived, forwarded from the old address, Veronica intercepted them with the efficiency of a seasoned manipulator. She read one, her lips curling into a sneer. "Pathetic," she murmured, tossing it into a shredder. She deleted Clara's texts from Ethan's phone, her fingers swift and precise, ensuring no trace of Clara remained. One evening, over dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the bay, Veronica leaned in, her voice low and intimate. "You've got the world at your feet, Ethan. But you seem distracted. Is it that ex of yours?" "Clara, was it?" Ethan stiffened, his fork pausing mid-air. "How do you know her name?" Veronica's smile was disarming. "You mentioned her once. Sounded like she was holding you back. Someone like that. She'd only want you for your money now. You're a target, Ethan. You need to be careful." He frowned, the words sinking in. "Clara's not like that. Isn't she?" Veronica tilted her head, her voice dripping with concern. "You left for a reason, didn't you? Maybe she's clinging to the idea of you, not the real you. The man you are now." Ethan stared at his plate, memories of Clara's tearful eyes clashing with the glittering world he now inhabited. "Maybe," he said finally, the word heavy with doubt. Veronica's smile was triumphant, but she hid it behind a sip of wine. Clara was becoming a ghost, and she intended to keep it that way. Clara's belly grew, a quiet miracle amidst her storm. She moved to a cheaper apartment, a cramped one-bedroom in a rougher part of Brooklyn, the walls thin enough to hear her neighbors' arguments. She worked double shifts at the diner, her back aching, her hands trembling as she balanced trays. The whispers followed her, customers murmuring about the poor pregnant girl left by her man, their pity stinging more than their scorn. One night, after a particularly grueling shift, Clara collapsed onto her threadbare couch, rubbing her swollen belly. "We're gonna be okay, little one," she whispered, her voice fierce despite her exhaustion. "I'll make sure of it." Her co-worker, Maria, a no-nonsense single mother, noticed Clara's pallor and pulled her aside during a break. "You're killing yourself, Clara," Maria said, her brown eyes sharp with concern. "You can't keep working like this. Not with a baby coming." "I don't have a choice," Clara said, her voice breaking. "I've tried reaching Ethan. He's gone. I don't know what I did wrong." Maria's expression softened. "Men like that, they get scared and run. But you're strong. You're gonna be a hell of a mom. Don't let him define you." Clara nodded, tears spilling over. Maria's words were a lifeline, but the weight of Ethan's absence was a constant ache. She didn't know about the wealth he now wielded, the penthouses and private jets. All she knew was the man who'd promised her forever and then walked away. The gala was a glittering spectacle, held in a Manhattan ballroom draped in crystal and gold. Ethan, in a tailored tuxedo, moved through the crowd like a king, his name on everyone's lips. Vortex Innovations had just secured a billion-dollar deal, and the elite toasted his success. Veronica was at his side, her red gown clinging to her like a second skin, her laughter calculated to charm. Across the room, Clara maneuvered through the crowd, a tray of champagne flutes balanced precariously in her hands. She'd taken the catering gig for extra cash, her pregnancy now impossible to hide. Her black uniform strained over her belly, and her feet screamed in cheap flats, but she kept her head down, avoiding the curious stares. Then it happened. Ethan's eyes caught hers across the room, and time stopped. Her face, pale, tired, but still achingly beautiful, hit him like a freight train. The champagne flute in his hand trembled as he took in her swollen belly, the unmistakable curve of impending motherhood. "Clara," he whispered, his voice lost in the din. Veronica followed his gaze, her smile freezing. "Who's that?" she asked, her tone sharp. Ethan didn't answer. He moved toward Clara, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. She froze, her tray wobbling as their eyes locked. "Ethan," she said, her voice barely audible, a mix of shock and pain. "You're—" His eyes dropped to her belly, his voice faltering. "You're pregnant." Clara's lips parted, but before she could speak, Veronica appeared, her arm looping possessively through Ethan's. "Darling, you're neglecting our guests," she said, her smile brittle. Her eyes flicked to Clara, cold and assessing. "Who's this?" "Clara," Ethan said, his voice raw. "She's someone I used to know." Clara flinched, the words cutting deeper than any knife. "Used to know," she echoed, her voice trembling. "Ethan, I tried to tell you." "Tell him what?" Veronica cut in, her tone saccharine. "That you're working a catering gig? How quaint." Clara's eyes burned with unshed tears, but she lifted her chin. "I need to get back to work," she said, turning away, her tray shaking. Ethan reached for her arm, his voice urgent. "Clara, wait. Where are you living? Are you okay?" She pulled away, her voice low. "I've been managing. No thanks to you." That night, Ethan couldn't shake the image of Clara's tired eyes, her pregnant belly. Against Veronica's protests, he tracked down the catering company and got Clara's address. The next day, he showed up at her dingy apartment, his heart pounding. "Clara, I didn't know," he said when she opened the door, her eyes wary. "I'm sorry. Let me help. Come stay with me. You shouldn't be alone." Clara hesitated, pride warring with exhaustion. "Why now, Ethan? You left me." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I was wrong. Please, let me make it right." Against her better judgment, Clara agreed, unaware that stepping into Ethan's world would thrust her into a gilded cage, and a battle she wasn't prepared for. Clara stepped into Ethan's Manhattan penthouse, her worn duffel bag slung over her shoulder, feeling like an intruder in a world of glass and gold. The sprawling space gleamed with polished marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and modern art that cost more than her entire life's earnings. Her sneakers squeaked against the pristine floor, a stark contrast to the opulence surrounding her. She clutched her belly, now 7 months along, as if shielding her unborn child from the cold grandeur. Ethan stood awkwardly in the foyer, his tailored suit at odds with the uncertainty in his eyes. "This is your home now," he said, his voice soft but strained. "Anything you need, just ask." Clara's lips pressed into a thin line. "I don't need your charity, Ethan. I couldn't keep living in that apartment. Not with the baby coming." "It's not charity," he insisted, stepping closer. "I owe you this. I owe you everything." Before Clara could respond, a sharp click of heels echoed through the penthouse. Veronica appeared, her sleek black dress hugging her frame, her smile as sharp as a blade. "Well, isn't this cozy?" she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "Ethan didn't mention we'd have a guest." Clara's stomach twisted, but she met Veronica's gaze. "I'm not a guest. I'm here because Ethan asked me to stay." Veronica's eyes narrowed, flicking to Clara's belly. "How generous of him," she said, her tone icy. "But let's be clear, darling. This is Ethan's world now. Don't get too comfortable." That night, Clara settled into a guest room larger than her old apartment, its luxury feeling like a taunt. She found a note slipped under her door, written in Veronica's elegant scrawl, "Enjoy the view while it lasts. You don't belong here." Clara crumpled it, her jaw tightening. She wouldn't let Veronica's venom drive her out. Not when her baby's future was at stake. Over the next few days, Veronica's campaign was relentless but subtle. A misplaced phone charger, a forgotten invitation to a dinner Ethan hosted, a whispered comment to a maid about Clara's unfortunate situation. Clara endured it with quiet dignity, her focus on the fluttering kicks in her womb. But each slight chipped away at her resolve, and Ethan, caught up in Vortex Innovations' latest merger, seemed oblivious to the brewing storm. One evening, as Clara sat sketching in the penthouse's library, Veronica sauntered in, a glass of wine in hand. "You're quite the artist," she said, peering at Clara's sketch of a mother and child. "Pity talent doesn't pay the bills." Clara's pencil paused. "I'm not here for Ethan's money, if that's what you're implying." Veronica laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Oh, sweetheart, everyone's here for something. You're just less subtle about it." Clara stood, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You don't know me, Veronica. And you don't scare me." Veronica's smile didn't waver. "We'll see about that." Veronica's next move was a masterstroke of cruelty. She spent weeks crafting her plan, her fingers dancing over her laptop as she forged love letters and text messages. Using a burner phone, she created a fictional lover for Clara, a man named James, whose intimate messages painted Clara as unfaithful. "My darling Clara, I can't wait to hold you again. The baby will be ours, no matter what that rich fool thinks." She planted the messages on Ethan's phone, timing their discovery for maximum impact. One morning, as Ethan scrolled through his phone over coffee, a notification popped up, a text from an unknown number, forwarded to look like it came from Clara's phone. "James, I miss you." Ethan's clueless. "The baby's ours." His blood ran cold. He clicked through, finding a string of messages, each more damning than the last. His hands shook as he opened a printed letter, slipped into his briefcase by Veronica's careful hand, filled with the same lies. "Clara," he whispered, his voice breaking. Doubt, planted by Veronica's earlier whispers, bloomed into a poisonous certainty. He stormed into the library, where Clara was reading, and threw the letter at her feet. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, his voice a raw wound. Clara looked up, startled, then picked up the letter. Her eyes scanned the words, her face paling. "Ethan, this isn't. I didn't write this. I don't know any James." "Don't lie to me," he roared, his pain erupting. "You've been playing me this whole time? The baby, it's not even mine, is it?" Clara's breath hitched, tears spilling over. "Ethan, listen to me. I've never been unfaithful. This is fake. Someone's trying to." "Who, Clara? Who would do this?" His voice was venomous, his trust shattered. "You come back into my life, pregnant, and now this? I was a fool to believe you." She reached for him, her voice desperate. "Ethan, please. I love you. I've always loved you. This is our baby. You have to believe me." But his eyes were cold, unreachable. "Get out," he said, his voice low and final. "I want you gone by morning." Clara stood frozen, her heart splintering. "You're wrong," she whispered, but he turned away, leaving her alone in the vast echoing library. The penthouse was suffocating, its luxury a mockery of Clara's pain. She packed her duffel bag in the guest room, her hands trembling as she folded her few belongings. The accusations stung worse than Ethan's abandonment months ago. She'd fought to survive, to protect their child, only to be cast out again on a lie. As dawn broke, Clara stood in the foyer, her bag slung over her shoulder. Ethan was nowhere to be seen, his absence a final blow. She took a deep breath, steeling herself, and headed for the grand staircase that led to the elevator. Her footsteps echoed in the silence, each one a reminder of her isolation. Veronica appeared at the top of the stairs, her silk robe flowing like a dark river. "Leaving so soon?" she called, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. "I thought you'd at least try to fight for him." Clara paused, turning to face her. "I don't need to fight for what's real," she said, her voice steady despite her tears. "Ethan will see through your lies eventually." Veronica's smile was venomous. "Oh, Clara, you're so naive." She descended a few steps, her eyes gleaming with malice. "He's mine now. You and your bastard child are just clutter." Clara took a step forward, anger flaring. "You did this, didn't you? Those letters, those messages, they were you." Veronica's smile widened, and she leaned in close, her voice a whisper. "Prove it." In a flash of rage and despair, Clara stepped forward, her hand raised. But Veronica was faster. With a calculated shove, disguised as a stumble, she pushed Clara backward. Clara's foot caught on the edge of the step, and she fell, tumbling down the marble staircase with a sickening thud. Pain exploded through her body as she landed at the bottom, a sharp cry escaping her lips. Veronica's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth in feigned horror. "Oh my God, Clara!" she screamed, rushing down the stairs as a maid appeared, alerted by the noise. Clara lay motionless, blood pooling beneath her head, her vision fading as Veronica's panicked voice echoed in her ears. "Someone call an ambulance!" The ambulance sirens pierced the early morning silence as Clara was rushed to the hospital. Ethan arrived minutes later, his face ashen, his hands shaking as he watched the paramedics wheel her into the emergency room. The sight of her lifeless form, her pregnant belly stark against the stretcher, was a knife to his heart. He'd been in his study, nursing his rage, when the maid's screams brought him running. "What happened?" he demanded, grabbing Veronica's arm in the hospital waiting room. Veronica's eyes were wide, tearful. "It was an accident, Ethan. She slipped on the stairs. I tried to catch her, but—" Her voice broke, a convincing sob escaping her. Ethan's grip tightened, his eyes searching hers. "She slipped. Just like that." Veronica nodded, her lips trembling. "It was awful. I'm so sorry, Ethan." But something in her tone didn't sit right. Her tears seemed too perfect, her story too neat. He released her, turning away as a doctor approached, his expression grim. "Mr. Caldwell," the doctor said, his voice low. "Your friend is in critical condition. She suffered a severe head injury and internal trauma. The baby's in distress, and we're preparing for an emergency C-section. The nature of her injuries suggests—" He hesitated, glancing at Veronica. "It wasn't a simple fall. There may have been force involved." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Force," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. The doctor nodded. "The police will want to speak with you both." Veronica's hand flew to her chest. "Police? Why would they?" "For an investigation," the doctor said curtly, walking away. Ethan turned to Veronica, his eyes narrowing. "What did you do, Veronica?" Her face crumpled, but her eyes were sharp. "How dare you accuse me? I was trying to help her." But Ethan's mind was racing, replaying the scene in his head. Clara's desperate pleas, the forged letters, Veronica's constant presence. A cold dread settled in his chest, the first cracks forming in his trust. Clara lay in the ICU, tubes and monitors surrounding her, her face pale and bruised. Ethan sat by her bedside, his head in his hands, the weight of his actions crushing him. The baby, a tiny boy, was in the NICU, fighting for his life in an incubator. Ethan hadn't seen him yet. He couldn't bear it, not when he'd accused Clara of betrayal. The doctor's words echoed in his mind. The nature of her injuries suggests this was no accidental fall. He thought of Veronica's panicked performance, her too perfect tears. He thought of the letters, the messages, the way they'd appeared so conveniently. His stomach churned as he began to question everything. A detective entered the room, a stern woman with a notepad. "Mr. Caldwell, I need to ask you some questions about the incident." Ethan nodded numbly, his eyes fixed on Clara. "Go ahead." The detective's questions were pointed. Where was he when Clara fell? What was Veronica's relationship with Clara? Had there been any arguments? Ethan answered mechanically, but each question deepened his unease. When the detective asked about Veronica's demeanor, he hesitated. "She seemed upset," he said slowly. But something felt off. She was too quick to explain, too prepared. The detective raised an eyebrow, jotting something down. "We'll be speaking with Ms. Steele as well. There's evidence of a struggle, bruising on Ms. Thompson's arms that doesn't align with a simple fall." Ethan's heart stopped. "You think someone pushed her?" The detective's expression was unreadable. "We're investigating all possibilities." After she left, Ethan stared at Clara, guilt and fear warring within him. He replayed their last conversation, his accusations, her tearful denials. What if she was telling the truth? What if he'd been played? He stood, his jaw tightening. He needed answers. He needed to see those messages again, to confront the truth. As he stepped into the hallway, Veronica was there, her face a mask of concern. "Ethan, how is she?" she asked, reaching for his hand. He pulled away, his voice cold. "Stay away from me, Veronica, until I know what really happened." Her face fell, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. For the first time, Ethan saw it clearly, the serpent beneath the surface. The hospital's sterile hum was a constant reminder of Clara's fragility. She lay in the ICU, her chest rising and falling with the rhythm of machines, her face bruised but serene, as if dreaming of a world kinder than the one she'd endured. Ethan sat by her side, his eyes bloodshot, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. The tiny boy in the NICU, their son, was a mere whisper of life, his incubator a fragile barrier against the world's cruelty. Ethan hadn't yet mustered the courage to see him, the weight of his accusations against Clara crushing him. The detective's words echoed in his mind, bruising on Ms. Thompson's arms that doesn't align with a simple fall. Ethan's gaze drifted to Veronica, who stood in the waiting room, her manicured nails tapping nervously against a coffee cup. Her concern seemed rehearsed, her tears too perfectly timed. He replayed their interactions, the forged letters, the deleted texts, her insistence that Clara was a threat. Doubt, once a seed, now bloomed into a gnawing suspicion. He approached her, his voice low but sharp. "Veronica, we need to talk." She turned, her green eyes wide with feigned innocence. "Ethan, darling, how's Clara? Any news?" "Cut the act," he said, his tone icy. "The police think Clara was pushed. What do you know about it?" Veronica's cup trembled slightly, but her smile held. "Pushed? That's absurd. I told you she slipped. It was an accident." "Then why are there bruises on her arms?" Ethan stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Why does your story sound like it was rehearsed?" Her composure faltered, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "You're upset, Ethan. I get it. But accusing me? That's low, even for you." He held her gaze, searching for the truth. "I trusted you, Veronica. But I'm starting to think I've been a fool." Before she could respond, the detective, Officer Reyes, approached. "Ms. Steele, a word, please." Veronica's smile tightened, but she followed the detective, throwing Ethan a look that was equal parts defiance and fear. Alone, Ethan returned to Clara's bedside, his heart heavy. He took her hand, her skin cool against his. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I should have listened to you." In the waiting room, Officer Reyes questioned Veronica with a calm that belied her intensity. "Ms. Steele, witnesses saw you arguing with Ms. Thompson before her fall. Care to explain?" Veronica's laugh was brittle. "Arguing? Hardly. I was trying to help her. She was emotional, unstable. Pregnant women, you know." Reyes' eyes narrowed. "Unstable enough to fall down a marble staircase? Or did someone help her along?" Veronica's face paled, but she held her ground. "I don't appreciate the insinuation, officer." Ethan overheard the exchange from the doorway, his suspicion hardening into certainty. He needed proof, and he needed it fast. Ethan's world was unraveling, each thread of Veronica's lies pulling free. He couldn't shake the image of Clara's fall, the blood pooling on the marble, or the doctor's grim words. But the question that burned hottest was the baby's paternity. Had he been wrong to believe Veronica's fabricated evidence? The thought that he'd accused Clara of infidelity, that he'd driven her to this, was a knife in his gut. He met with the hospital's geneticist, his voice urgent. "I need a paternity test for the baby in the NICU. As soon as possible." The geneticist, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Patel, nodded. "We'll need a sample from you and the infant. It'll take a few days." "Make it quick," Ethan said, his tone clipped. "I need to know the truth." The wait was torture. Ethan spent hours pacing the hospital corridors, avoiding Veronica's calls and texts. She'd been too quick to distance herself, her messages a mix of concern and subtle accusations. "I hope Clara's okay, but you know she was unstable." "Be careful, Ethan." Each word fueled his rage. When the results arrived, Dr. Patel called him into her office. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, handing him a sealed envelope. "The test is conclusive. The baby is yours." Ethan's breath caught, his hands trembling as he opened the envelope. The numbers blurred before his eyes, but the words were clear. 99.9% probability of paternity. His son. Clara's son. Their child, born into a world of lies and betrayal because he'd been too blind to see the truth. He sank into a chair, the weight of his mistakes crashing over him. "I accused her," he whispered. "I told her it wasn't mine." Dr. Patel's expression softened. "You can't change the past, Mr. Caldwell. But you can be there now. For both of them." Ethan nodded, a fire igniting in his chest. He would make this right. He would find justice for Clara and protect their son, no matter the cost. Armed with the paternity results and the detectives mounting evidence, Ethan confronted Veronica in the penthouse's stark conference room. The police had found security footage from the staircase, grainy but damning, showing Veronica's calculated shove. Officer Reyes had shared just enough to confirm Ethan's suspicions, and now he wanted answers. Veronica stood by the window, her posture rigid, her usual charm replaced by a defensive edge. "Ethan, you can't seriously believe I'd hurt her," she said, her voice trembling with practiced sincerity. "I loved you. I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" Ethan's voice was a low growl. He slammed the paternity results on the table. "You lied about the baby. You forged letters, deleted her messages. And now Clara's fighting for her life because of you." Veronica's eyes darted to the paper, her facade cracking. "You don't understand. She was dragging you down, Ethan. You're a billionaire, a visionary. You needed someone who could keep up, not some diner girl." He stepped closer, his anger a living thing. "You pushed her down those stairs, didn't you?" Her lips parted, but no words came. The silence was her confession. Ethan's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "Get out of my life, Veronica. The police are coming for you, and I'll make sure they have everything they need." Veronica's face twisted, her charm dissolving into venom. "You'll regret this, Ethan. You think you can just throw me away? I made you who you are." "You made me a fool," he shot back. "But not anymore." As she stormed out, her heels clicking furiously, Ethan felt a strange relief. The golden cage was shattered, and the serpent was unmasked. But the cost, Clara's pain, their son's fragility, was a wound that would take far more to heal. Ethan spent every moment at the hospital, a shadow by Clara's bedside. He whispered apologies to her unconscious form, his voice raw with guilt. "I was wrong, Clara. I should have trusted you. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right, I swear." He finally visited the NICU, his heart lurching at the sight of his son, so tiny and fragile, tubes snaking from his body. The nurse, sensing his turmoil, placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "He's a fighter, Mr. Caldwell. Like his mother." Ethan nodded, tears burning his eyes. "What's his name?" he asked, realizing he didn't even know. "Clara called him Noah," the nurse said softly. "Before everything. Noah." The name felt like a promise, a chance to rebuild. Ethan's wealth, once his pride, now felt hollow. He'd traded love for ambition, and the price was nearly everything he held dear. He met with Officer Reyes, handing over the forged letters and texts he'd recovered from his phone's archives. "Veronica did this," he said, his voice steady. "She manipulated me, deleted Clara's messages, and I think she tried to kill her." Reyes nodded, her expression grim. "We're building a case. The footage is clear, and we've got witnesses. Ms. Steele won't slip through this." Ethan felt no satisfaction, only a bone-deep resolve. He returned to Clara's side, vowing to be the man she deserved, the father Noah needed. His quest for atonement wasn't about grand gestures but about facing his failures and rebuilding, one painful step at a time. Weeks passed, each day a battle for Clara and Noah. Ethan never left the hospital, sleeping in a chair by Clara's bed, his laptop abandoned as Vortex Innovations ran without him. The news of Veronica's arrest hit the tabloids, socialite charged in shocking assault, but Ethan ignored the headlines, his world narrowed to the woman and child fighting for life. One evening, Clara's eyes fluttered open, her gaze unfocused but alive. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. "Clara," he whispered, leaning forward. Her lips moved, a faint sound escaping. "Ethan." He took her hand, tears spilling over. "I'm here. I'm so sorry, Clara. I was wrong. About everything." Her eyes, though weak, held a storm of emotions. Pain, anger, but also a flicker of something softer. "Noah," she rasped. "He's okay," Ethan said quickly. "He's in the NICU, but he's stable. He's strong like you." Clara's tears fell, her hand tightening on his. "You believed her. You thought." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I was blind. But I know the truth now. Noah's mine. Our son. And I'll never doubt you again." She studied him, her gaze piercing. "Why should I trust you, Ethan? After everything?" He swallowed hard, his voice raw. "You shouldn't. Not yet. But I'll prove it to you. Every day, for as long as it takes." A nurse entered, checking Clara's monitors, breaking the moment. But Clara didn't pull her hand away. It was a small gesture, a whisper of a truce, but to Ethan it was everything. For the first time, he dared to hope that her heart's echo might one day forgive him. The hospital room was no longer a sterile prison but a quiet sanctuary where Clara's recovery began. Her strength returned slowly, her body healing from the trauma of the fall, though her heart remained guarded. Noah, their tiny son, was gaining weight in the NICU, his small hands curling into fists as if ready to fight the world. Ethan was a constant presence, his once impeccable suits replaced by wrinkled shirts, his eyes heavy with sleepless nights but burning with determination. Clara sat propped up in bed, sketching in a small notebook, when Ethan entered with a tray of coffee and pastries. "Thought you might be hungry," he said, his voice tentative, offering a shy smile. She glanced at the tray, then at him, her expression unreadable. "You don't have to do this, Ethan. I'm not your responsibility." "You're not a responsibility," he said, setting the tray down. "You're everything. You and Noah. I know I don't deserve your trust, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Clara's pencil paused, her hazel eyes meeting his. "Words are easy, Ethan. You left me once. You believed her lies. How do I know you won't hurt me again?" He flinched, but his voice was steady. "You don't. Not yet. But I'll show you, Clara. Every day, if you'll let me." She didn't respond, but she didn't turn away either. It was a small crack in her defenses, and Ethan seized it. He arranged for the best specialists to oversee her recovery, hired a physical therapist to help her regain strength, and ensured Noah received round-the-clock care. But his most significant gesture was quieter. He funded Clara's dream of opening an art studio. One afternoon, he handed her a folder with lease papers for a Brooklyn storefront, its windows perfect for displaying her paintings. "What's this?" Clara asked, her voice wary as she opened the folder. "Your studio," Ethan said simply. "You always talked about it. I want you to have it, no strings attached." Her fingers traced the papers, tears welling in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I believe in you," he said, his voice raw. "And because I owe you a life you deserve." Across town, Veronica's world was collapsing. Her arrest for attempted murder made headlines, her polished image shattered. In a sterile interrogation room, she faced Officer Reyes, her charm useless against the mounting evidence, the security footage, the forged letters, and a maid's testimony about Veronica's hostility toward Clara. "You don't understand," Veronica hissed, her composure fraying. "I was protecting Ethan's future." Reyes leaned forward, her voice cold. "By pushing a pregnant woman down a staircase? Save it for the jury." Back at the hospital, Clara and Ethan visited Noah together for the first time. The sight of their son, his tiny chest rising with each breath, broke something open in Clara. She reached for Ethan's hand, her touch tentative but real. "He's beautiful," she whispered. "He is," Ethan said, his voice thick. "Just like his mother." The moment was fragile, a bridge built on shared pain and hope, but it was a start. The art studio became Clara's refuge, a sunlit space filled with canvases and the scent of paint. But the emotional scars of Ethan's betrayal and Veronica's violence lingered. Ethan, recognizing the depth of their wounds, suggested therapy. "We need to talk about everything," he said one evening, sitting across from Clara in the studio. "Not just for us, but for Noah." Clara's jaw tightened, her brush pausing over a half-finished painting. "You think talking will fix this? You broke us, Ethan." "I know," he said, his voice low. "And I'll carry that guilt forever. But I want to understand you, Clara. I want us to heal, even if it's just to be good parents to Noah." Reluctantly, she agreed. Their first session with Dr. Lena Carter, a therapist with a sharp mind and a warm presence, was raw and unfiltered. Clara's voice trembled as she spoke. "I loved him with everything I had," she said, her eyes fixed on the floor. "And he walked away. He believed I could betray him, that Noah wasn't his. I don't know how to trust him again." Ethan's hands clenched, his voice hoarse. "I was a coward. I let ambition blind me, let Veronica manipulate me. I failed you, Clara, and I hate myself for it. But I'm here now, and I'll do whatever it takes." Dr. Carter's voice was gentle but firm. "Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. It's a process, one that requires honesty and vulnerability. Are you both willing to do the work?" Clara hesitated, then nodded. "For Noah," she said softly. "For you," Ethan added, his eyes locked on hers. The sessions were grueling, peeling back layers of pain. Clara spoke of the loneliness of her pregnancy, the humiliation of the community's whispers. Ethan confessed his fear of stagnation, how his ambition had twisted into a need to escape. They cried, argued, and sometimes sat in heavy silence, but slowly they began to listen. One session, Clara reached for Ethan's hand, her touch a lifeline. "I want to believe you've changed," she whispered. "But I'm scared." "I'm scared too," he admitted. "But I'll keep showing up." Outside therapy, Ethan proved his commitment in small ways, bringing Clara coffee while she painted, reading to Noah in the NICU, and quietly supporting her without expectation. The echoes of their past pain softened, replaced by tentative new sounds, laughter, shared glances, and the promise of healing. Months passed, and Noah came home, a healthy, giggling baby with Clara's hazel eyes. Clara's studio flourished, her vibrant paintings drawing crowds and critics alike. Ethan scaled back his role at Vortex Innovations, delegating to focus on his family. Veronica's trial loomed, her guilty plea sparing Clara the pain of testifying, though the scars of her actions lingered. One crisp autumn evening, Ethan invited Clara for a walk in Central Park. The air was sharp, the leaves a riot of red and gold. Noah slept in his stroller, bundled in a soft blanket. Ethan's hands were sweaty despite the chill, a small velvet box burning a hole in his pocket. They stopped by a quiet pond, the city's hum distant. Ethan turned to Clara, his heart pounding. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, his voice unsteady. "About everything we've been through." Clara's eyes narrowed, but she didn't pull away. "What are you saying, Ethan?" He dropped to one knee, pulling out the box to reveal a simple sapphire ring, its deep blue echoing her strength. "Clara, I failed you once. I let fear and lies tear us apart. But you're my home, my heart. I love you, and I love Noah. Marry me, not for the money, not for the past, but for the future we can build together. A real one, forged in all this mess." Clara's breath caught, tears streaming down her face. She looked at the ring, then at Ethan, seeing not the billionaire but the man who'd sat by her hospital bed, who'd held their son with trembling hands. "You hurt me," she said, her voice raw. "But you fought for me. For us." She paused, her heart racing. "Yes," she whispered finally, a smile breaking through her tears. "Yes, Ethan." He slipped the ring on her finger, pulling her into a fierce embrace as Noah stirred, letting out a soft coo. The world felt right, their love a vow reborn in fire. The ceremony was intimate, held in Clara's art studio under a canopy of fairy lights. Friends and family, Maria from the diner, Dr. Carter, even Officer Reyes, gathered to witness their renewal. Clara wore a simple white dress, her hair loose, her smile radiant. Ethan, in a linen suit, couldn't take his eyes off her. Noah, now a chubby toddler, toddled between them, clapping his hands, oblivious to the storm his parents had weathered. As they exchanged vows, Clara's voice was steady. "I choose you, Ethan, not because it's easy, but because it's real. You've seen me at my worst, and you're still here. I promise to love you, to fight with you, to build a life with you." Ethan's eyes shone with tears. "Clara, you're my strength, my redemption. I promise to honor you, to protect you and Noah, to never let fear win again. I love you, always." The guests cheered as they kissed, Noah giggling as he tugged at Clara's dress. The reception was filled with laughter, music, and the warmth of a love that had survived the crucible. Maria raised a glass, her voice booming. "To Clara and Ethan, the phoenixes who rose from the ashes." The crowd laughed, but Clara and Ethan shared a quiet look, their hands entwined. Their story, once a tragedy, was now a triumph, a testament to resilience and forgiveness. 5 years later, the Caldwell family thrived in a Brooklyn brownstone, a far cry from Ethan's sterile penthouse. Clara's art studio was a local landmark, her paintings celebrated for their raw emotion. Ethan, still a tech titan, had shifted his focus, using Vortex Innovations' wealth to fund charities for single mothers and families in crisis. He spoke at fundraisers, his voice steady as he shared their story, anonymized but powerful, inspiring others to find hope in hardship. Their home was filled with laughter, Noah's boundless energy, Clara's playful teasing, Ethan's quiet pride. One evening, as they sat on their porch, Noah asleep in Clara's lap, Ethan took her hand. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" he asked, his voice soft. Clara smiled, her eyes tracing the stars. "Every day. I thought we were broken, Ethan. But we rebuilt something stronger." He kissed her hand, the sapphire ring glinting in the moonlight. "Your heart's echo, it saved me." She leaned into him, her voice a whisper. "It's our echo now." Their love, once silenced by pain, now resonated with eternal hope, a melody that would carry them through whatever came next. Noah stirred, murmuring in his sleep, and Clara's heart swelled. The past was a shadow, but their future was a vibrant canvas, painted with love, resilience, and the unbreakable bond of family. The end.